That reminds me, anybody know how to pronounce Amagi? Is it Amagi or Amaji?
I think it's a hard G.
What's that?
I think it's
Amaji?
a hard, no, I think it's a hard G.
Hard G, Amagi. Okay. I'll probably get it wrong anyway. Yeah, it's like I always said about the advertising business. It's a great business except for the clients, right?
You're not going to catch me saying that just as Sean gets on.
There you go. Well, he's not my client. Trying to move my chair so my head is about the same size as you guys. There we go. Same distance from the camera. Rachel, do you see that note from Sean?
Yep, I think he may have joined on the attendee side, so
Okay,
I'll call him in right now.
thank you.
I think I see Sean on the panelist side now.
We're good.
Hey,
Sean?
do you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Perfect.
Success.
Hey, Sean.
Turn on my camera as well.
I'll remind you when this happens, but when the session is over, if you want to keep listening, you can keep listening, but turn off your camera and put yourself on mute so you don't pop up in the next session by accident.
Surprise.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Bill Gannon, the group publisher of Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, Next TV, and TV Technology. On behalf of our entire team, I'd like to welcome you to this year's virtual Fall TV 2020. We remain committed to delivering the highest quality speakers and event programming despite the many challenges and uncertainties of our times. A special thank you to our presenting sponsor, our platinum sponsors, our gold sponsors, our media partner and event partners. And please join me in thanking our terrific speakers who've kindly agreed to spend some time with us all today. And I also want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. We appreciate it. You know, we look forward to getting together with you all again live and in person sometime very soon. But until then, rest assured that our team is hard at work covering the news and trends of this industry of ours through our magazines, our websites, and our newsletters. And now, I'll let our event producer, John Lafayette, tell you more about what we have planned for you this week. John?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd also like to welcome you all to our Advanced Advertising Summit produced by Future PLC, the parent company of your favorite industry publications, Broadcasting and Cable, Multi-Channel News, and our new and growing website, Next TV. You know, it's said that you should never let a good crisis go to waste. The TV industry is struggling with multiple crises all at the same time. There's the COVID pandemic and the recessions it's caused. There's social unrest, and more parochially, cord cutting is slicing the number of pay TV homes, creating more and more fragmentation. And while streaming is growing, it's created new challenges for advertisers and media buyers. All of these concerns might create opportunities for advanced advertising, which could make TV more effective, accountable, and competitive with digital advertising in the long run. Now, over the next 4 days, we'll have some of the top people in the TV ad business from dozens of the most consequential companies addressing these issues. We've got speakers from Comcast and Cox and Charter, Viacom CBS, Discovery, Kroger, Molson Coors, L'Oreal, Tubi, Oracle, Nielsen, and Comscore. And after this week is over, you might want to tune into our other fall TV events. We've got Hispanic Television Summit on September 21st to the 24th, Streaming TV Summit from September 29th to October 2nd, and our Audience Management Summit also from September 29th to October 2nd. Now, before we go into today's keynote session, I'd like to thank our sponsors who make all of this possible. Our presenting sponsor is Univision, our platinum sponsors are 605.TV, Hogard to HGTV, Nielsen, and Xander. Our gold sponsors are Amobi, Ampersand, Canoe, Castalia, Mexicanal, and Europa Mas, Candista, Fuse Media, Imagine Communications, NBC Universal and Telemundo, StackAdapt, and Vizard. Our networking sponsor is Amagi Corp. Good. Now we can start. A lot of talk in the advanced advertising world these days revolves around connected TV or CTV. Everything in this business has to have an initial, right? Amid the pandemic, with millions of people sheltering in place, staying from home from work and school in order to slow the spread of coronavirus, millions of people were streaming billions of minutes of content onto their TV screens using either smart sets or Roku boxes, Amazon Fire Sticks, or other connected devices. Now, while a lot of those people were watching commercial-free video on demand, like Netflix, many were watching ad-supported content. That's a great thing for advertisers because most AVD platforms are set up for addressable advertising, automated buying, and other advanced advertising technologies. But as with any new digital technology, there are risks. CTV is something of a wild west still with few standards and guidelines, and that makes brands venturing into the space vulnerable to potential fraud and funding their ads adjacent to questionable content, even when they expect to be in a premium environment. How can brands protect themselves? We have a top-notch panel who can explain the problem and the solutions that are being developed. I'd like to introduce our speakers. We've got Joe Barone of Group M. We've got Sean Colber of Dell Technologies and Matt McLaughlin from Double Verify. Thank you all for being here. Let's start off, first question. Joe, let's start with you. What are the opportunities that CTV presents to your advertisers, and how are you counseling them to be careful as they venture into this space?
Sure. First of all, thank you, John. Thank you, Broadcasting and Cable. It's great to be here with everybody. CTV is providing a tremendous opportunity for us to complete through the line cross-platform video strategy. We want to be where the audience is. We need to go where the audience is. And as the audience moves more and more into connected environments, it's important that we bring the same sensibilities and measurement capabilities to CTV as we have in linear and digital video. One of the really interesting things, during your introduction, I was thinking about the phrase channel surfing. And we don't think about that much. And in the CTV environment, you have a sort of controlled, deep engagement with programming, which tends to lead to non-skippable breaks, which is a great thing for advertisers. So there's great opportunity in the CTV space. There's opportunity to engage with audiences, and we just want to make sure we can continue to measure and generate quality engagement the way we do in other forms of video.
So how are you suggesting to your clients that they go about doing that?
Well, when we started buying CTV, it was basically premium environments, linear extension with good partners that we were sitting across the table from. And those are environments that were necessarily less risky. Now, in those environments, there's still things we're looking for, like linear deal terms. You want to know break in position, you want to know show synopsis, etc. And as we move through the secondary markets, we start to get more towards digital deal terms. And while you have the opportunity of audience targeting and audience-based buying, you have the concerns about IVT and spoofing, piracy, user-generated content, low quality inventory. What else can we add? Technology inconsistencies, server-side ad insertion. There's a host of sort of digital opportunities along with digital problems in the CTV space.
Good. Thanks, Joe. So Sean, you're a client. How has Dell approached CTV, and what's the bigger concern for you as you wade in there? Fraud or ads running in questionable content, risking brand safety?
Yeah, thanks everybody. So on the Dell side, we have been big and programmatic just overall for quite a while. I mean, 5 or 6 or 7 years. With CTV specifically, we started maybe in late 2017 or early 2018. But for us, in order to move into it, it was critical that we know that we have some sort of protection there, the way we would in display or video. And so, we use Double Verify for ad verification, but we, looked into the environments where we would be showing. We were thoughtful about it. We approached CTV originally as just a way to sort of extend our more clear reporting that we get through programmatic, also to give us some incremental reach for folks that were cord cutters or the cord nevers, right? It's been very successful for us.
But there are risks getting into CTV, specifically fraud, specifically brand safety. How do you balance out those two? Which one is the one that really keeps you awake?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Both of those are good. Not good things. Both of those are the good things to be concerned about. The fraud, I mean, we feel like, with having Double Verify for protection there, it's not a large issue, right? It's minimal. But for us, the bigger concern is brand safety. So, Dell overall, we would say is, maybe a more risk-averse brand than some out there. And so we want to be cautious where we're showing. And so we're able to get sort of the detail and the transparency that we need in terms of where we're showing, that we feel confident that we're not going to be where we don't want to be. And so far we haven't. So
Well, that's good so far. So far, so good, in other words.
so far, so good.
So, but not every advertiser has had that kind of luck, I guess. Matt, how big are the problems with brand safety and fraud in the CTV space?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think I'm going to split those up. I think in the area of fraud, I think what we see a migration of fraudsters into the environment, and that's really driven by two factors. The two factors are the CPMs that are available and the fact that there's high demand for all inventory. And the second factor is really it's a less measured environment. Advertisers in many cases have not employed third-party measurement into these environments. There's been technical challenges in the past that measurement companies like Double Verify have overcome. But we just don't see as much coverage of the CTV portions of campaigns. So what that's led to is a tremendous increase in the amount of fraud in the CTV space. In fact, in our Global Insights report that we published just a couple of weeks ago, we see 161% year-over-year increase in CTV fraud. And that number alone is a little bit startling. But then you compare it to what do we see in desktop where fraud rates fell 40%? What do we see in mobile where fraud rates fell 20% year over year? So what we see is that we see this migration, and Double Verify has been in the fraud avoidance space for some time. And what we know is, fraudsters are trying to generate the most amount of revenue, so they go, where the CPMs are highest and where the likelihood of being caught is lowest. And we're now seeing that in the CTV space. In terms of quantifying the problem of brand safety, I don't think we're there yet. I think we're at a stage around giving brands like Dell initial views into transparency about where they're running, what apps they're running inside. There's certainly been, some standardization work that the IAB has helped us with, but we've at Double Verify have really had to invent ways to create that transparency so that brands can see every app that they're running inside. But we know brands want more. We know brands want show level information so that they can understand the actual content that they're running alongside, and in order to ensure that the content they're embedded within represents their brand values.
So basically, this is a Willie Sutton situation. The fraudsters are going, just like Willie Sutton would rob banks, the fraudsters are going to CTV because that's where the money is.
Absolutely.
Cool. So tell me, how does Double Verify identify this fraud? Can you tell me about a scheme that the engineers there at Double Verify noticed and were able to confirm was actually fraud? What kind of signs do you see, and how can you make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen again once you
Sure.
identify it?
So, Double Verify, we're very active on detecting fraud on behalf of our customers. We don't tend to, shout out every single scheme we found. In fact, we found over 10 unique CTV fraud schemes in 2020. We ensure that protection is seamlessly rolled out to our customers. But I'll talk about one of them just recently where we've seen it's a mechanism around manufactured impressions, bot-based impressions, where what happens is apps are getting what we call legitimacy cloaking, where an app will take publicly available content, think old westerns, old cartoons, and bundle that content up, which is free to use. And they then will get an app approved on a major platform that distributes CTV. And then they use essentially that legitimacy, the fact that it is an app that's running on these platforms, and that gives incentive for fraud, because now if there's a made up impression, bots will represent themselves as appearing inside of that old westerns app. When you compare that traffic statistics compared to the number of installs of the app, you can see that there's significant discrepancies. And so what we see is we're identifying literally hundreds of thousands of new devices every day that are just made up CTV devices that are creating new fraud, and they're using this legitimacy cloaking and other factors to try to escape detection. And what Double Verify does for companies like Dell and other brands is we ensure that protection. Not only do we ensure that it's measured at the point of ad delivery, but we have lots of integrations into demand side platforms, supply side platforms, to prevent the buying and purchasing of those impressions in the first place, in order to protect their spend, protect their marketing integrity.
And John, if I could add, and that was a great explanation, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to partner with Double Verify with clients like Dell. But also sometimes there's a misconception that all the invalid traffic is part of these evil ad networks and these evil botnets, which are real and a real problem. But in the CTV space, we're also talking about very basic inventory verification, like foreign emanation content. And if a marketer knows they're buying Filipino or Turkish or Iranian content that's running in the US to US eyeballs, then it's not invalid. But if you think you're buying premium content from a premium programmatic partner and you're getting foreign language content or user-generated content, crimes caught on camera, whatever it might be, then we consider that just as invalid as the spoofed devices or the spoofed pokes, to Matt's point. So there's a lot of different ways that that we're working to make sure our clients get what they believe they're paying for.
How about you, Sean? You got to keep an eye on this stuff. How do you work with your media buyers and with Double Verify to ensure that your ads are running when and how they're expected?
There's a couple steps. I mean, first, we work with our agency, with MediaCom, to make sure in our buys that we're buying where we'd like, right? So we have a number of direct buys with sort of premium publishers. We work programmatically, primarily with Adobe, but others. But wherever we have the transparency to know what we're getting. And then we also do regular check-ins with our team at DV to understand, that things are coming out the way that we expect. Like we were talking about before, the issue with fraud is, if you're showing your ads to bots, then, you wasted those media dollars, which is a shame, right? And it distorts your media reporting. But if it's small, it's not a huge issue. But with brand safety, I mean, if you have an ad showing in the wrong place and then it gets tweeted at Michael Dell or whatever, right, and it blows up, that turns into a very big problem, which fortunately hasn't been an issue for us. You know, everyone has probably seen some of these big exposés in the New York Times and other places.
So you don't want to get a call from Michael Dell.
You don't. Not in this type of circumstance, no.
I can't say I blame you. Some days I don't want to get a call from my boss either. So Group M recently came out with a checklist for CTV advertisers. What are some of those steps that you're advising that clients take in order to ensure their brand safety in this environment?
Sure. For the most part, the steps that we recommend in the CTV space are very similar to what we would recommend in digital video. So we're looking for a maturing of the space to be able to deliver the same types of controls and protections as we would get anywhere else. And that includes paying on valid impression counts, third-party reporting, inclusion lists and exclusion lists, all the good things that we can do in other environments, pre-bid filters. And one of the big concerns that we've been addressing in 2020 is non-transparent deal terms. Very often, if we think back 10 years with digital video ad networks, we would get sample app lists. You will run on these apps like these fine apps. Meanwhile, you get a list of 50 apps and you're running on 2,000 apps. And that's just unacceptable in 2020. We need to know every app that's on the list, and we need independent third-party verification that that's where the ads are actually running. So it's not just agreeing with a publisher on where you're going to run, it's having an independent third party without any skin in the game confirming that. The last part of the setup, that's the standard digital video setup, would be MRC accreditation. So it's very important that companies like DoubleVerify are aggressively pursuing full accreditation in the CTV space as they have in all other environments.
So is that your job to go out there and make sure that the people that you're buying from are willing to let you know exactly what you're buying and how you're buying them from, and that they're giving you appropriate deal terms and giving you information that you need to know about the particular shows?
Well,
I mean, how much of a hammer do you need to get them to start to do that? And are they agreeing to do that, or are they still reluctant to provide that sort of information?
Well, we have a number of hammers, and most of them are people like Sean. The hammers are the clients that are unwilling to invest and continue to invest without those deal terms. My job is to make our clients, and more important, or just as importantly, our investment teams in the Group M model, more in an operations role as opposed to investment. So it's my job to say, these are the things we should be looking for. And then the investment teams, along with our clients, have the leverage to achieve those deal term objectives.
Excellent. So Matt, DoubleVerify has a definition of what an authentic impression actually looks like. What are the components of an authentic impression?
So an authentic impression is really the minimum standard of quality that any brand should accept and have to pay for. And the definition of an authentic impression is an impression that meets 4 key criteria, which is it's in the target geography of the campaign, it's brand suitable, brand safe, in the right contextual environment, that the traffic was valid, so non-fraudulent, and that the ad was viewable, meets the minimum IAB standard or the agency standard, such as a Group M standard for viewability. And impressions that meet, really brands can use this metric as the metric of impressions that help drive outcomes because they meet the minimum standards across those 4 key quality dimensions. And really our goal in the CTV space, and what we've been working towards and continue to work towards, is measuring all 4 of those same dimensions with the equal degree of coverage and accuracy as we've measured in desktop for the past 5 years. And Joe mentioned, one of the guiding principles of the advice that Group M gives is they should be doing in CTV the same things that they're doing across digital video. And we really embrace that in terms of the technology that we produce, in that we provide our brands and our agency media buying partners a single video tag that can get used and deployed no matter what environment it's in. And really that's the way we can gain maximum coverage of authentic impression measurement, is to have a trafficking solution that works across the entire digital video ecosystem, and then be able to continuously adapt that measurement to the environment the ad's running in. And that's the direction we're going in the CTV space, as we've already done in the mobile and desktop space.
And the tracking is important because with some of these CTV, you're doing the insertion at a different point in the video stream, right? And it makes it a little bit different in being able to measure and verify that the right ads are running in the right content. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Both the technical differerences in the devices, their ability to run script versus not run script, and the fact that you know, if it's server-side ad insertion and you know, preloaded, the ability to deal with those environments and those factors and measurement and continue to produce accurate accredited measurement is absolutely critical.
Hey, tell me a little bit more about server-side ad insertion. Why is that tricky? And why is that being done in CTV as opposed to other environments?
I mean, server-side ad insertion is really critical in order to ensure the consumer quality of the ad display, right? And to be
you don't want to. It keeps you from latencies and having long black pauses while the ad runs, and when that happens, people change the channel essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. It also enables really customized targeting per consumer, and allowing the video ad that's embedded to be really customized to the user. The challenges around tracking become, it creates another intermediary. And what we know from being in the industry is, you know, you have to be able to develop robust algorithms for which intermediaries you trust and the data validations that you do on those intermediaries. So server-side ad insertion is a completely legitimate practice that has enabled other fraudulent players to try to spoof themselves as SSAI servers and create manufactured impressions. So SSAI by itself is a great thing, but the fact that it introduced another intermediary into the ad delivery chain means that your measurement company has to be able to detect legitimate versus illegitimate SSAI and be able to determine when the information is trustworthy.
Cool. So this is an evolving field. What else does DoubleVerify have coming down the pike as it continues to try to detect fraud and brand unsafe environments and prevent clients from winding up in those sorts of unsafe environments especially in the CTV space?
Yeah, in the CTV space, as I mentioned, we're just driving towards the authentic impression and providing full protection. Probably the most innovative thing that we'll be rolling out in the next couple of months is what we call video filtering, which is a form of real-time protection that can work across both direct sold campaigns and programmatic campaigns, and provide a real-time prevention of an ad running even in the CTV environment. It doesn't rely on, if you're into the video technology, it doesn't rely on VPAID. And in real time, we can identify and protect a brand from fraudulent impressions that are running off their media plan, not in the right geography, and ensure in a CTV environment, in a mobile app environment, that they are not shown, and protect the brand integrity. And that's something that we'll be rolling out very shortly.
Is there much of an issue in terms of direct sold media in terms of fraudulent impressions being generated that way?
So there's not. There's, you know, in our Global Insights report, what we show is there's about over 10 times more fraud in programmatic than in direct sold CTV. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. What we see is we can see trafficking errors where a campaign could be running outside the target geography. There's invalid traffic, as Joe well knows. There's invalid traffic that's not fraudulent. If a consumer just leaves a device on 24/7 and goes on vacation, you know, per MRC guidelines, we cannot consider those impressions valid because they don't represent reliable human activity. So a lot of the problems are smaller in the direct environment, but they still exist, and brands still care about them.
Well, so is there something specific about programmatic that can be done to sort of clean that up a little bit more, or are dollars moving from programmatic to direct as the bigger media players get more into the CTV space?
Yeah, there absolutely is. You know, also in our Global Insights report, we showed that for programmatic environments where they utilize our fraud avoidance, we call those certified programmatic partners for CTV. In those environments, the fraud rates are basically reduced to the same as on direct buys. So it's really in those unregulated programmatic environments where third-party bidding data and third-party measurement is not taking place that we see 10x the level of fraud versus brands that are taking proactive steps and working with platforms that have integrated CTV solutions.
Sounds pretty reassuring. Sean, are you reassured? What would make Dell feel more secure as more viewers turn to streaming and CTV?
I think that's exactly, I think those are all the right steps, right? I mean, we're satisfied basically where things are right now, but we're always pushing for greater transparency and such. So that's exactly where we all want to go.
Cool. So Joe, you mentioned the MRC. What are some of these steps that the other players in the industry can take to make CTV more comparable with linear TV in terms of brand safety?
Well, the MRC is a huge part of it, and as I said, the leading legitimate partners that we work with, like Double Verify and others, are all in process there. There's also, again, good business practices. There's transparent deal terms, and in the SSII space, there's different ways those servers can be set up to give more access to the client-side signals. So there's just an enormous number of adjustable elements that can be aligned. And it's important that we continue to push for it from the buy side so that we don't accept the limitations that are in the space. And as the eyeballs continue to flow there, the dollars will continue to flow there. So we just need to continue the maturing of the space to treat it like other forms of digital video. And again, at the top of the spectrum, at the top of the market, when we look at direct publishing premium partners, where we might be less concerned about fraud, in those cases, we want linear deal terms. We want the ability to understand episode summaries, break in position, frequency capping. Please, how do we fix the frequency? I mean, how many times do I have to watch the same Progressive commercial? I mean, really.
You don't like hearing Flo sing Danny Boy?
I got nothing against Flo or the guy who spins the sign, but enough is enough, you know?
How about the MRC? Are they specific? Is there a specific type of audit that you'd like to see them run in order to dig into this fraud situation? And then what have they said about actually starting to execute that sort of an
Well,
audit?
all the major audits for the MRC can be applied to CTV. Fraud, brand safety, and viewability all can be pursued in the CTV space.
So are you hopeful that that we'll be able to bring the fraud rates down and the brand safety issues down to
Absolutely.
the same level as linear? Over what kind of a time frame do you think we'll be able to not have this conversation?
Well, you know, it's interesting because it goes back to the Global Insights report statistics showing 161% increase.
Right.
Part of that increase is real increase in fraudulent activity, and part of it is a real increase in measurement activity. So what we need is a cross-section of campaigns that are running with verification technology. So we do a better job of finding the bad guys where they're hiding. Anytime a client runs a CTV campaign without verification technology, we're running the risk of missing out on identifying where that invalid traffic is running. So eventually those increases will start to level off, and then we can start to see decreases because we can effectively start eliminating the fraud. First you have to go find it, then you can start to work around it.
Oh, and Shoni, you're secure enough to keep investing more and more dollars into the CTV space if it turns out to be an effective sales channel for you?
Yeah, things have worked well for us so far. Every year the investment's gone up. I expect it'll go up again next year as well.
So Matt, I guess that leaves it to you guys. Is more spending going to mean more fraud, or will we be able to get, or are you optimistic that we'll be able to manage that as more and more brands go into this space? They won't worry about either losing their shirts or their respectability.
Yeah, I'm optimistic as long as we see, you know, expanded third-party measurement, as Joe mentioned, right? You can't determine fraud rates on what you can't measure, and so the only way to really drive out fraud is to be able to be measuring it as consistently as the rest of your digital campaigns.
Terrific. Well, on that note, I think we're done here. I'd like to thank you, Joe, Sean, Matt. Everybody in the virtual audience, let's give them a virtual hand. We appreciate it. Now you guys, please turn off your cameras and your mics, and the folks on the next panel, please turn on your mics and your cameras so we can see your shining faces.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.